You're watching Toronto Sports Rush on the Bet Rivers Network.
It's Wednesdays with Keegs following a heartbreaking, disastrous, I don't know any superlatives to describe the Jays blowing a 4-0 lead to a not a good baseball team. Keegs, let's dive right in. I'm a glass half full kind of guy, but watching that unfold Tuesday night, all I kept thinking was, this better not be one of those games where we look back and say, we had that one. If only we had just closed it out. They had it. Your thoughts on the 4-0 loss Tuesday night?
It's nothing worse than a bullpen loss. You know, it's a hitter can go 0 for 4, strike out 4 times. I'm probably not writing a story about them. I bet you there's been 100 times this year that a hitter on the Blue Jays has gone 0 for 4, struck out a few times, and I haven't even noticed. But as a reliever, you can't hide. And if you screw up in the 8th or 9th inning, everybody sees it. There's no way to be subtle about a bad bullpen day. And Chris Bassett was really good. The lineup, 5 runs, right on that line, but I think they had 14 hits. And like you said, Dan, the Twins are not good. They already weren't good, and they sold off everybody at the trade deadline, including to the Blue Jays. So these are tough games to drop because at the end of the season, more likely than not, things are going to be decided by a game or two. The Blue Jays have a pretty comfortable lead in the East right now, but we're also talking about top 2 spots in the American League, so you can get past that wild card series. Every year, things tend to come down to a game or two. And these are the type of games, like you said, you look back on and say, oh, should have had that. And Jeff Hoffman in the middle of it again. It's been confusing, man. It's, 5 months into covering Jeff Hoffman? And it's still hard for me to get a read on the difference between his good and bad days. And you don't want that in a closer. You want reliability in a closer. You want to know exactly what you're getting when they come out. And it's been a while since the Blue Jays have had that in Toronto. I know Jordan Romano had great years. He always liked to make it a little entertaining. But we're seeing that a bullpen, no matter how good a team is, a bullpen can sink it. I'm not in crisis mode just yet, but a bullpen can sink any team. Doesn't matter how good they are.
I wonder if you're of the same age. Not, we know we aren't of the same age, but whenever someone says it's been a while, I think of Stained. It's been a while. I just wanted to get it there. Okay, so watching the broadcast, did I hear boos rain down upon Jeff Hoffman?
A little bit. Yeah, and I had a couple of people message me that it sounded loud on the broadcast. It wasn't loud.
It did.
It's so I'm when I say cranked up, I don't mean like artificial noise, but I'm wondering if it came through louder on the TV than at the Dome. Even when he came off, there was like a handful of boos mixed in with some polite applause, which is very Canadian, which I mean in a derogatory way.
Who the hell's applauding that effort?
Like it's okay. Thank you for it. It's if that happened in Philly, which I know Jeff Hoffman knows very well. He's been a member of the Phillies. If that happened in New York or Boston, you'd really hear it. It wasn't very loud in the stadium, to be honest. But relative to Toronto, which never boos and is always just eager to politely clap, it was pretty loud. So that shows the stakes of this. And I think you see, Dan, like online, the reaction. And in my job, it's not, my job is not to react to fan sentiment after losses. It's, I think my job is more to have my head above water and decide when it does and doesn't matter that, that a loss is this big. But it's also important for me to keep an eye on like what people give a damn about, what people care about, what people are saying. And there was a real sky is falling moment last night. But I think that shows, Dan, the stakes of this season. If this same loss happened on this same day last year, nobody cares. I probably don't have any TV and radio to do today. Nobody's talking about it. It's on to like whatever, some Toronto Maple Leafs player went for a jog or some shit is leading Sports Center. Like that's what's happening. But this is such an interesting way to capture who the Blue Jays are right now. And every game is like top tier. Everything's important, vibrating intensity. And we're going to see this in the playoffs, too. If you screw up in the playoffs, the season ends. But this has been a really, really interesting snapshot of the 2025 Jays, man. Stakes are very high.
Keegs, you'll be happy to know that during Jays games, I think of you often. And I thought of you when Vladdy came to the plate with a chance to tie it, bottom of the ninth. And I said, Keegs, you're going to get your Vladdy moment. You requested
I started writing it.
Vladdy to have his moment, and it came up 30 feet short.
I started. I wonder how many stories I write a year that don't go anywhere. Normally just a couple lines, like I still have a folder with my, my Bowden Francis no-hitter stories in them and a few of these big moments. But because the way it works for people listening who have normal jobs, jealous, but I have to have a story ready the moment the game ends. So when Vladdy's walking up to the plate, I'm already writing a story just in case. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. saved the day. He made George Springer's day worthwhile. Jeff Hoffman owes him dinner, blah, blah, blah. But when it left the bat, Dan, I turned into one of those baseball fans who doesn't understand fly balls. Like, I really thought he'd gotten a hold of it. And normally I'm good with that stuff. Normally I'm a doubter, actually. Like, there's plenty of home runs that off the bat, people are yelling, and I'm thinking, okay, come on. But that one tricked me. I thought he really, really shot it out to the opposite field and had that kind of moment for him. But, man, it's against the Twins is tough. Man, these are the games you need. And the Jays have had a few of these lately where they're kind of playing down to opponents. So you can be an optimist, Dan, and say that, like, in the playoffs, no teams suck, right? So you're going to play up to those, but you got to get there. You need to get there.
At what point do the Jays consider changing their closer, or do they even consider that?
I don't think they will yet, because I go back, Dan, to John Schneider earlier in the year, where I had to ask him this same question a few different times when Hoffman was giving up home runs. I think it was, I'm trying to think of Jeff Hoffman's year. It's very up and down. April, dominant. Like, he was as good a reliever as I've seen in Toronto in my 10 years covering for that April. May, less so. June had some moments. July, tough. So it's been up and down, up and down. So this cycle has come around a couple of different times with the closer decision. And there's been different guys who are options at different times as well. Sir Anthony Dominguez would be an option. Louis Varland hasn't really found his footing here yet. Yariel Rodriguez, I still think could be a closer someday, but he came in yesterday, Dan, and he was throwing his fastball 92. Normally he throws it 96. He's made 55 appearances this year. He's converting back to being a reliever. Like, I'm tired. I feel terrible just covering this team, and I'm sitting in a press box eating snacks. It's August 27th. These guys are worn out. Relievers are getting up to career high appearances. Brendan Little's another one who's used over and over and over. But it gets tough on them. And that doesn't mean they're injured. It just means they're really feeling it right now. And the options aren't super obvious, which puts them in a tough place because they just need Hoffman to be the closer. They absolutely need it. And in a perfect world, Jimmy Garcia was healthy. Chad Green never got released. Eric Swanson had a bounce-back year, but hasn't all gone right for this bullpen. They've had to scramble. And that's why I think they keep trying Hoffman here a little bit longer. John Schneider's always the trust his guys manager. It's blown up on him in the past. It's worked for him in the past. So we'll see here. I don't think a change will happen in the next few days, anything drastic like that. But as you get closer to the playoffs, that patience gets a little shorter.
You mentioned how you cover this team and you see them every single day. So you know firsthand that this team, either the starting pitching, which is happening right now, is carrying the brunt of the load for the team. At one time, it was the bats when they're putting up 14, they're putting up double digits. At one small percentage of the season, it was the bullpen. So when all three are firing, can you name in a nutshell how many games that's actually happened? Because it's the perfect mix. It's a tough mix to find, though, and right now they don't have it.
That's right. If it's all working, it's a World Series mix, honestly. And it feels, Dan, like two of those facets are always co-parenting the other facet. Where it's like, all right,
that's a great term.
Yeah, like you pick up the kids, come on, okay, like offense, you grab the bullpen, let's go. We gotta, and it's worked enough because at certain times the lineup has been fantastic, and at other times the rotation's been great. Earlier in the year, the bullpen was really good. Now going back to the 1st of August, even that road trip before the trade deadline through Detroit and Baltimore, the Jays have the problem in the bullpen is walks right now. They're walking too many guys. They're putting themselves in trouble. And that's something that you can't really dance around. You just need to fix it. You can't strike more guys out to eliminate it. You just can't walk people in the 8th and 9th inning. So it's about getting everything lined up. And when the Blue Jays do line up, we see, Dan, when you go back a couple of months, that great run they had that made them jump into first place, past the Yankees, real hot streak where they were winning like 20 out of the 25 games. That's who the Jays can be. But this gets to the big question of talent versus consistency. It's every player in Major League Baseball can hit a home run. Every pitcher can strike out Shohei Ohtani. They can all do it. You just got to be consistent. And the Blue Jays aren't being as consistent right now as we've seen them. That's what lets bad teams take advantage of you, like the Twins. And I know there's going to be more bad teams down the stretch, but look at a team like the Twins. Most players on that roster are trying to stay in the big leagues for another year or two. They're trying to make that extra $1 or $2 million, stay in the big leagues. That's good motivation too. I know the World Series is motivating, but I think we're too quick to write off, oh, that's a crappy team. They don't care. These guys are trying to squeeze another $1 million out of their career. That is a very high motivating factor.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. August 27th, if you said to the Jays, you'll be leading the AL East by 4 games. They're taking that all day. So there's a positive. And Keegs, I'm a one day at a time kind of guy. It causes chaos in the rest of my life when I don't really plan that well because I'm focused on today. But as I prepared to speak to you today, I glanced at the schedule. You got the Brewers. You've got a series against the Yankees. You have a series against the Red Sox. And you don't win 2 of those 3 series, your hold atop the AL East is gone. So I guess, John Schneider, this is where you become your therapist, the father, the chaplain, where you make sure the team isn't doing what I just did.
Definitely. You need to keep them very focused on today. And that means different things for different players, Dan. For someone like Max Scherzer or Chris Bassett, they would be hyper-focused on who they're starting against next. I guarantee you Max Scherzer, we're talking at 10 a.m. in the morning. I bet Max Scherzer is at the ballpark already. Like, he is that guy. He's probably hunched in a video room watching video of whoever he'll start against next. Maybe the Brewers, the team that comes after. For other players, I remember, Dan, going back earlier in the season when we were in Boston, and I asked Addison Barger, because I was just fishing for a story. I was out of stories that day. So I said, hey, the Yankees are coming to town next. What do you think about that challenge? And he started to answer and then kind of trailed off and was like, to be honest, I didn't know we were playing the Yankees next.
Yeah, I love it. That's good.
That level of ignorance, and I don't mean ignorance as a derogatory thing here. I just kind of, ignorance is bliss in a certain sense, I'll show up to the ballpark and whoever we play, we play. Cool. It works different for different guys. But this is why, Dan, and like you mentioned, the schedule coming up, I always think of trying to keep at least that 3.5 game lead in any division, because you can get swept real quick. I'm not projecting, the Jays suck, they're going to get swept. Any team can get swept. And if that happens to you against the Yankees or the Red Sox, it blows up what you've done for the last month. And it flips a division really, really quickly. The Jays right now they're kind of in the driver's seat. They can stumble once or twice and still be okay, but you can't stumble against those teams. I think the Jays have been 4 or 5 games up now, Dan, for what feels like 2 months, and it's gotten a little comfortable, but it can get uncomfortable really quick.
Yeah, when we speak again in 1 week, the AL East could look completely different. Fingers crossed. It doesn't. Keegs, enjoy the rest of your week, my friend.
You got it, Dan. Thanks, man.
Thanks for watching Toronto Sports Rush on the Bet Rivers Network.